with your Sensie Owl Bob. That's me, your griot, here to tell you a story. Don't believe a word I say, blah, blah, blah. So here it is, Monday the 21st on the east coast of the USA. And how you like it so far? Things are changing pretty quick. But they're staying the same. This is just the Greek Empire falling. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. We see it in all different little episodes. When New York City went bankrupt for 20 years, between 1969 and 1988, which basically rejiggered. That's why we had the oil embargo. There was no embargo. There were millions of ships off the east coast of America full of oil. It was just rejiggering. Instead of paying 16 cents a gallon, you now pay $2 a gallon, right? And there were wars going on everywhere, in Africa and Asia, in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Yugoslavia, the Balkans, There were things going on as the Soviet Union was crumbling, war in Afghanistan, brought to Russia by Jimmy Carter and Brzezinski, and the rejiggering of the drug scene, no longer the French Connection. It was coming out of South America, out of the Nazis. All right. So here we are, I think, right? Because it's going to get even scarier because they are controlling the weather. They are, all of those fires every which way, It's a thing called direct energy weapons. I gave a really nice keynote speech at the United Nations in 1984. I gave another one earlier, when we were, had the Alternative Technology NGO in the UN in 73 on, where we basically figured out how to get potable water into Africa without any big infrastructure. I said to the guys at UNICEF, so what's the biggest physical garbage environment problem Africans have? They said 2-liter plastic soda bottles. So really, I said, can you get me a bunch of them? Different makes, models, types. Yeah. So I went outside on 2nd Avenue and filled it up with the brackish, most crappy water you could imagine and brought them back and just stuck them on the window ledge of our little closet and let the sun hit it, right? First day goes by. I had another one of these plastic 2-liter bottles in a funnel and some filter cloth, and I poured that water. That all the brackish crap went to the bottom. And there was still water there. I poured just that water into the next bottle, put it in the sun, right? Did this next step, right? And each one of those bottles, I would take a thing and then send it to Johns Hopkins and have them do a test on what was in it. By the time we got to the third bottle, it was totally potable water. The UV from the sun was killing whatever biologics were in there. Whatever your T-shirt and a funnel was keeping the brackish stuff out. The chemicals basically would also be deteriorated by the UV, and the water wouldn't stay in people's bodies long enough to really be a long-term thing. But it definitely got people from not dying of waterborne diseases, right? That was it. UNICEF took that idea, put it all over Africa. 5 million people, especially children, didn't die. Then what happened, I basically left that NGO 2-3 years after into it because I was doing other stuff and they were doing great. They didn't need me anymore. So I went back to a meeting in, I guess, 75, and all that problem had come back because the companies that were making those soda bottles added something to the process that blocked UV. Now, that's when you realize that, the problem isn't the north-south thing. It isn't Russia and the United States. It isn't any of that. We have a deeper story here, more a biblical story, and in the beginning, Elohim, huh? No, God's name isn't Elohim, it's El. Elohim means demigods, meaning plural gods, smaller gods, right? And they're the guys who are screwing around with us. Why did the Greeks and, everybody and his brother, the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, they had number one God, whatever his name was. And then they had all these other gods, Mars of war and Venus of love and all the rest, right? The Vatican has the same thing. They're called saints, So, and, the Baptists who are, white walls, no stained glass windows, none of the above, no decorations whatsoever. They have decorations, How big is that church? Anyway, so what are you guys saying? Let's see. Where are my glasses? I haven't been around because the weather's been... I've been actually meditating and because things are really, I don't know if you've noticed this month of July, from June, actually since January, each month has gotten stranger, weirder, and if you are at all sensitive, you've been feeling a change going on. What is that change? Like, where is my glasses? Let's see if I can see this stuff. Let's see. Oh, you guys are writing. Let's see. Guys, put everything in capitals so I can read it. What do you do for content? You know what I do for content? I talk to God, right? And talk to Jesus, talk to Elohim, I talk to Gaia, and I'm here. One of the things I do is, I'm a puddinhead. I'm a human. I get frustrated. I get angry. I get all of those things. But I'm aware of my limitations. There's that great Dirty Harry movie where he blows up the bad cop with the bomb that they put in to blow him up. And he blows that guy up. And his last comments to that guy was, a man's got to know his limitations. So I do my best. I'm not perfect, but I do my best to be compassionate, empathetic, and observant of my biases, right? And when I see those things, I help them, right? And every day in every way, I take the piece of the earth and I make it stronger by helping others, not myself, others. I gave all my wealth away, right? And it's really interesting. I am basically bureaucratically and digitally challenged, right? I was in the 70s and 60s, 70s, and 80s. I went to a seminary. Most people don't realize that every college on the planet is controlled and manufactured by the Jesuits, right? And NASA, more than any group, NASA has more Catholic priests and nuns working in it, right? The nuns of, I got murdered in first grade by a Nazi nun. She was a literal Nazi, torturer, right? She was called the milkmaid of Auschwitz. She would torture men until milk came out of their breasts, out of their nipples, right? So, I've seen a quite, I've been abused, amused, and dissipated, but somebody up there likes me or thinks it's funny that I go through what I go through. So I'm out of an age where I move, I'm slow. I can barely walk, every morning I wake up and thank God for being, like this morning, it was raining. It's ridiculous. You think the weather is hot and muggy now? Next week, starting today, going on through this week, into next week, into September, It's going to be 3 digits every day. The humidity is going to be 110%. There are states where the temperature is going to be not feel like 112. It will be 112. The United States will probably lose 1 million people because of this. And what are we talking about? Donnie. He was put there, kids. Don't you realize he's a game show host to distract? I mean, I was in a restaurant today, and everyone they have this channel where all they have is never-ending game shows. Let's see. Oh, there's the boss. Hey, Rev, what's shaking? Are you there, Reverend?
I am here. How you doing, Al?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I'm live on the show. We're talking about what's coming down.
There's a lot of juju going down right now.
There's a lot of juju going down, baby. And it's so amazing how people can be distracted by a simple game show host like Donald. All they're talking about is his letter to, what's his name, Jeffy, right? And but no one's, it's going to be like 112 degrees the next 2 months.
It was 140 in Kuwait. That's okay.
Wait until it's 140 in Minnesota.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep. So, tell me about what you're reading and studying right now.
Well, different things. I'm looking at the Civil War period.
Mm-hmm.
How people survived. There's one account of a woman who volunteered to be a nurse for the Union.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in Washington, D.C. until her health broke and the conditions were appalling.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like...
a lot of stress.
Yeah, kind of like... I mean, in the Civil War, people don't realize that's kind of where they invented the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, you could say that. And there was a artifact that was given to this very unfortunate young woman who was sold from her family during the slavery period. And her mother gave her a bag, which was embroidered with the family history.
Right.
And it finally showed up, and I believe the title is All That She Carried. I'll be reading that next term. And I have a book in hand right now, Remember Us by Robert Etzel. And this is about the American campaign in Holland. And, all the GIs who got killed and how the Dutch promised to remember these men by adopting the graves of soldiers who were killed, liberating their country. And it's amazing, you can go over to Holland and see a picture of a soldier from World War II and they attend to the grave. And in America, no one could care less, and there's no pictures of the dead. 2 generations, the eraser is taken to you, you're gone.
Yep.
So I'm looking at that, and my son is at Vacation Bible School.
Okay.
And the theme is a circus thing. It looks like a big round top with the candy and the games, and it's a circus motif. And the kids are really buying into that. It looks pretty good. They got a red shirt. Let's see what it does here. And my son's getting so big, he got the large. Okay, step right up. The Bridge Church, Joshua 1:9. And it's pretty cool. I get a free shirt.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of pumped up, and the kids are happy, and they got something to do. It keeps them off the street from stealing hubcaps. So I guess that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But as far as like Remember Us goes, this is kind of near and dear to my heart. Like for all the soldiers we've lost in all these tragic wars.
And you spent most of your grown life experiencing that.
Well, and going back in history and honoring these people who died that were totally forgotten, and reaching out to their families and placing memorials that were non-existent where these men died. And there were a lot of people who died in the U.S. in training.
Yes.
That have been totally ignored. There are airplanes off the coast on the east and west coast with their crews entombed in them. They're still finding crew members in the Sierra Mountains with the glacier melt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were 15,000 pilots that got killed in North America in training accidents.
And they don't even talk about the women's flying corps who would take the bombers straight off the assembly line, fly them to like North Africa or England, and they've never been flown. And that's the first test flight. And these girls are like, calmly marking down the list of, oh, yes, this doesn't work. The flaps don't work. The wheels haven't got, and how many women died in that? They don't even get a blink of an eye.
Well, the women Air Force service pilots are like the Tuskegee Airmen.
Right.
It took a long time for recognition to come to them, which was really, really needed and well-deserved, and unfortunately very late in coming.
Yep.
And both groups they befriended each other at air shows. Their tents were close to each other. There were 38 WASP who were killed during the war. One is still missing in the Santa Monica Bay off of the shore where LAX airport is. Gertrude Tompkins. So she went down in October 1944. They're still looking for remnants of her aircraft, which would probably be the engine.
Right.
Would be all that would be left. And that's a small target. And the visibility at the bottom of the bay is like 0. It's horrible. And they actually found a Air Force jet that crashed in the 50s that no one knew about.
Right.
Looking for Gertrude. But the pilots that flew, it's very interesting. They towed targets. They did test flights for aircraft that were repaired. They flew anything and everything with a wing and an engine, including the B-29.
Yep.
Now, their duties were in the continental United States. They did not fly combat aircraft overseas.
But they took them to points where they would be.
They would be, right. Like the Russians would pick up the P-39s in Montana.
Canada and Alaska and places like that, yeah.
Right, and fly them over there. And the P-39 Airacobra killed a lot of American pilots.
Yeah.
And the Russians seem to have enjoyed some success with it, shooting down German airplanes.
Right.
Now, the men who flew the Mustangs were the ones who survived training in the P-39.
Right.
And it was rumored that the cause of the Cold War was America dumping these pitiful aircraft on the Russians for Lend-Lease.
Right.
And at low altitude, they could hold their own, but the engine was behind the pilot, and you had a wandering center of gravity.
Right.
And the plane was very tricky and temperamental to fly, and you could move the stick a quarter of an inch, and it could snap on its back.
Right. So okay, now this is
it was a terrible airplane.
Again, this is all like in the weeds. Us aircraft buffs, you and I, and historian buffs like you and I. What did you call yourself? A temporary historian? No, what was the term you used?
Well, someone addressed me as a quote unquote part-time historian, and I go like, I kind of like that.
Yeah,
I can do other things with my life with the other part.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like when people called me an itinerant scholar, meaning, I was never getting tenure anywhere. I was just like, and I like that one too. I thought that was a good, higher thing. But all of the stuff that we just talked about goes to the point of why war is even fought. And the main reason why those Russians got those crappy airplanes is because the guys who made those, who made the F-30, who made that aircraft?
Bell built the P-39.
Right, so it was a, the Air Force didn't want it. It was a terrible aircraft, so they gave it to the Russians. And Bell made a heck load of money. And who really controlled Bell? Do you know who controlled Bell? The Nazis.
Well, after the war, we brought them all over here with Operation Paperclip. You just kind of take it from there. And the space program, Werner von Braun.
And
the last project he worked on was the space shuttle before he died.
Yeah, and then he went and worked for one of those contractor guys and got the big checks and all that. But it was the two things that owned NASA were the Jesuits and the Nazis. And So do you know that virtually every university college on the planet runs under the auspices of the Jesuits?
Well, when the colonies were up and running, clergy educated, promising students. You didn't have formal schools. You would have clergy tutoring, people, who had gifts, who wanted an education. And later on, a lot of the, Williamsburg with William and Mary and a lot of schools, they were founded for training clergy,
Right.
and obviously, the schools would grow off at that point and take off. But a lot of higher education, it had to do initially with training churchmen.
Right.
They were the most highly educated people that came to the shore because, they had language ability, they had higher studies. Education as we know it today is completely different from what these people experienced in the old days. It was a different philosophy altogether.
Well, back in the Dark Ages, basically why it was the Dark Ages is that the Catholic Church made it a sin to be able to read and write and do mathematics. So everyone lived in their own slop as serfs for 900 years.
Well, and the Bible was actually chained to a pulpit.
Right. You couldn't take it home with you.
Yeah, it stayed there, and it was in Latin, and obviously, the Vulgate. A lot of people had
Right.
hard time with English, let alone Latin. And even the Catholic Church, when they opened the window as Vatican II, the Latin services were absolutely beautiful. You have no idea what they're saying,
Right.
but it sounds good. Good, darn impressive. That's high church right there.
Yeah. I was in with some guys today in our little where we make the magic of the birdhouses, and we were burning all our excess stuff, and it was pine and cedar, and it brought back the memories of my time at the being trained to be a Catholic priest and all that incense. It was like, and us altar boys, man, it was like huffing cocaine or something. I mean, we would be high just being that close to the urn that kicked out the incense. It was pretty intense. So the Catholics really knew how to put on a good show.
Still do.
Yeah. And they do a good job. Just look at the death of the last guy, and it's amazing that we haven't heard a peep from the new Pope.
Well, there's a lot to be said for that, and with Francis and everything, he set the church on its head.
Right, sideways.
Yeah, I mean, he just made a lot of stuff up, and but it's interesting, the new pontiff that we have, an American, it's like, that's just huge. But he had never been through a conclave before.
Right.
Yeah, he had no idea what to do.
Yep. That's why they made him Pope, because he has no idea what to do. Kind of like why the powers that be made, Jimmy Carter and what's his name, the movie star guy, Ronald Reagan, and Jerry Ford. I mean, Jerry Ford was a lot smarter, and Jerry Ford was pretty good at playing stupid. And, and our present game show host, and they're pretty much the scum of the barrel. That's who, we don't really shoot for the high and mighty, because look what we came from. Our founding fathers were pretty much scum from the barrel, So,
well, Benjamin Franklin was a real interesting guy.
Oh, that's why he didn't want to be president, right? He was.
Well, he was too smart.
Yep.
And he was the oldest revolutionary.
Yep.
And he wanted the symbol of the country to be the turkey.
Right.
That would have been very interesting if we were like Virginia Tech,
Yes.
We're Hokies.
Yep.
It's like, because, turkeys aren't all that aggressive compared to an eagle.
Yes. So kids.
One salvages, just runs around looking for stuff to eat, and other ones is a predator.
Yeah, right. And yes, right. And that's what we are, predators. That's what we are. And Benjamin Franklin got the French to come in our side because he went over to Paris and started a nightclub called the Hellfire Club, where all the hoi deploy and royalty would show up, and it was like a gym where girls had their locker room, boy had their, and everyone wore masks and would come out naked and have sex and wild craziness. And the French said, anybody who can throw a party like this guy, we should back him. Let's back these guys. It'll piss the English off so much. So yes.
Well, the frontier scientist.
Yes, that was our boy. Yes.
Yeah, and he entertained the French court, and he was a real ladies' man. There's statues of him everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the women just fell all over this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a babe magnet. He really was, but it was his presence that gave us the aid that was necessary
to win that war.
Outdo the British and also the French Navy when it came to Yorktown. And you have to understand the French were the premier artillerist of their age.
Yeah.
And they zeroed in on the Brits, and they had to surrender. They had no choice.
Yeah, they just took them apart.
Piece by piece, sure did.
And most people don't understand that the English basically, they were tired of North America. It wasn't turning out economically for them. So they couldn't just leave. So it was like a faux war, meaning from the beginning, it was understood that America would win, but, be kept as a very low-class, low-level partner in the enterprise. And then when we tried to weasel in the War of 1812, the English came straight in, went straight up to Potomac, burned D.C. to ground, said, listen, you old farts, you do what we tell you, when we tell you. We have this thing called the special relationship, and that is, we say jump, you say how high. And that's been pretty much the case ever since, because all this stuff, like the Jeffrey thingamajig, I bet that goes all the way back to MI6 and guys like that. And
the Treasury Department, they have followed countless wires.
Yes.
Totaling over $1 billion.
More than $1 billion. He's got 400 accounts that had $1 billion in it. Yes, way. So he was laundering money. The other thing he did he gave money to all kinds of universities to fund their research. He stuck American physics in the toilet for 20 years chasing string theory.
Wow.
Yeah. Free energy, things of that nature. We were right on the edge of that. We have it, but the universities, like I was at a MIT conference where they were showing off cold fusion, right? And this one guy comes, I'm from this, blah, blah, blah. And if you, anybody here, all you guys who it was like a high school science fair, all you university guys, if you're not out of here in 10 minutes, you lose your tenureship. And any of you corporations, put those checkbooks back in your pocket, or otherwise, your stock is going to be zero tomorrow on the New York Stock Exchange. And that was kind of interesting. It was just like there with a friend. You didn't have a stick in the fight, but I saw this thing go down. And that was the end of cold fusion. Because there were about 10 colleges that had a working model, a bench working model, to prove the idea of how, you could have to, make it into industrial size, but gone. And Epstein was a guy who financed all those after that event, all those universities, and stuck them for 20 years in useless pursuit. We went from caveman to the atomic bomb basically in 18 years. And then from that point on, from unified field theory on, it stopped in like that 1949, 52. And then it's gone nowhere since. And Epstein really put the kibosh on the things that were being very obvious of what it was. Like the guy who invented television, what was his name? From the Midwest? not Marconi, no. Anyway, that guy. He was just a brilliant guy. He worked at Motorola, and he figured out how to make fusion without a nuclear weapon. Well, no radiation and no big cyclotrons but just math. It was amazing. And his partner was Dr. Knuckles, was Robert Knuckles. These two guys gave us Star Trek in 1957. And no one quite. Farnsworthy. Remember Farnsworthy?
Yes.
He's the guy who invented television. So anyway, there's all these guys and gals, women, that really amazing Hollywood movie star, the most beautiful woman. She invented basically cell phones.
Let's see, what, Hedy Lamarr?
Yeah, Hedy Lamarr.
Lamar, yeah. Yeah, she had something to do with with some other scientists with a radar-guided torpedo.
Right. Miniaturized too.
Hedy Lamarr. Yeah, that was her.
Hedy Lamarr.
She was a stunning beauty for her
stunning
time.
Beauty, and just most smartest girl, not smartest human in the room.
Well, they've always been that way.
Yeah, and the boys were just like my girlfriend, Christine. That was her. She was the smartest human being. She invented the, that little, when you go watch a Pixar movie, that little lamp. She was 16 and she made an algorithm, because they had computer graphics, but you had to make an algorithm for every frame. It cost a fortune. She invented one algorithm that could do a whole movie. And she was 16. They gave her like 2 PhDs and like maybe $100,000 and sent her up to GE, where they gave her a pretty good job. And that's when I met her. But, that not really. And she did amazing things for them. And she went and started NYIT, New York Institute of Technology, where she invented AI. She was working on AI, 84, 85.
Well, we're unleashing the gates of hell.
Pretty much. But they've always been open. The gates of hell, this is just every time humans have the opportunity to make the right choice, to step into God's will. We are tempted, that's what, God knew we were going to eat the apple, but especially when he goes, don't eat that apple. He could have put that apple like back, where they couldn't get to it. Lots of sticker bushes. No, don't eat that. So he knew that, and that's why we have a free will. That's why end times ain't coming anytime soon, because we have to screw up so much that we will accept God's unconditional love. That we will be, and when they talk about the what do they call it? The covenant, the house of the covenant. What do they call that? That movie was made out of it. It's like the garage for the covenant. And we are the garage. The human race is the house of God's covenant. And we just have to step into it.
We're acting more like a carport than a garage.
Right. Not even.
Yeah,
more like a tarp. More like a tarp. Right. So someone asked me just before you called, moments before, it said, how do you, what do you do to find grace or calmness or let's see if I can find what they said here. I wish now they're starting to put it in large print. So let's see. What's your reason, life essence? What's your something? It's too small. Life experience. Okay, well, we know that. Loads of fun. That's what it is. Right, Jeff? Right, lucky guy? We basically, you've had, what's your raison d'etre of everything you've done was just to have a good time. When you were on top of that mountain with that church, wasn't that a load of fun? When you were, trying to live in what was the name of that bus?
Oh, the Titan?
The Titan. That was loads of fun. I lived in this bus one winter. It was in a storage lot. And I think that's the most fun I've ever had in a domicile.
Well, remember, it was warmer outside than it was inside.
Exactly. It was like being in a refrigerator box. It's just...
It was made out of metal. The thing was just like it was built to last. It was just the rolling monolith, had 30,000 miles on it, and actually had a pretty beefy Dodge engine in it that was actually worth something if you could get to it.
Yeah.
Yep. But no, I mean, I drove that thing around that lot and I brought it back. I never moved it again. It scared me to death.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And I stored I used I had boxes of books, and that was the insulation. I made like an igloo in the middle of this thing, and slept inside the igloo. It was quite interesting.
Well, when it got really cold, you'd have 3 sleeping bags. I think my record was 1 degree.
Right. I think I lucked out. It
3 years.
It wasn't that cold. Plus, I had a really long extension cord to an outlet I found, and had an electric blanket. So.
Well, that helps.
Yes,
that helps.
And some Christmas lights.
I think it was a Titan. I think that was.
Yeah, that's it. It's a Titan. Yep,
that thing. I bought it for like, I think $350 or something like that.
That was a good deal. And
I had a roof. It was 28 feet.
Yeah.
And I had a place to hang out. So I boondogged it.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, we were. I would say that we were back in the day in New York City, in the 70s. I was called a performance artist. Not like a theater person, but instead of making a painting, I would do a performance of such. And that's what we were kind of doing in Roanoke, being performance artists.
Well, the library, I mean, you were holding court.
Yeah, that was fun.
Frequently. Yeah.
There were all these guys who thought they were really smart because they could pass a test. They went through college and they became like a cardiologist or a surgeon or whatever they were. And that library was really nice, especially they had, I think back in the Greek times, the Greeks knew to put a restaurant in the library. But after the Greeks, it's like, don't eat in the library, right? And so this library had a really nice coffee shop that had a great, club
coffee shop.
Yeah. And people would come and try and this is when the iPhone just came out. And they were trying to show how smart they were. They had an iPhone. And they would test my intelligence with questions. And I would give the answer. And then I would say, well, go use your stupid phone and see if I'm right or wrong. They go, oh, you're so wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then for like a good 3 years, I don't think anyone ever got their smartphone to say that I was wrong. So that was fun. And then I made them give me money. So it was like the bums who used to play chess in Washington Square Park with the college professors and just take them to the woodshed.
And you need to share, with your audience, the place that you bought from those people who survived the death camps that was built out of bags of cement.
Yeah. That's where John Boy is now.
Yeah, he's still up there in the woods.
Yeah, he's not losing his marbles. He already had way lost them, but he has great. I think that's the biggest thing. He has great talent. He has great gifts. He grew up in a family who had he never had want for anything. They gave him money to make 3 feature films, blah, 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 blah. He's done nothing really with it. And he's got kids, right? His oldest boy came to stay with him, and no one will talk about what happened. And he had different personalities, and one of his personalities was this little boy named Jimmy who would steal things. And it was just bizarre. I mean, I did it because inside him was a good person, and I thought I could help him, get that good person out. And all his other personalities aren't bad. He's his own worst enemy. So I kept seeing him as the microcosm of the human race. Potentially really good, a lot of talent, but does really stupid stuff and has a really bad outcome every time.
Well, there were a lot of stories that centered on him.
Right.
And there were some moments that were actually quite funny.
Oh, they were all funny. I mean, while I'm being tortured, and I was just being laughing because it was hilarious, right? So yeah, it's what it is, and that's like I said, when you look at the Earth and the human race and what it's doing to this planet and itself, it's hilarious. I mean, it's when you look at the suffering that's all around us, and you're empathetic, it's not hilarious. But in the bigger picture of it all, it sure is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But as far as the readings I'm doing, I'm just picking up a number of books and just looking at things. But I remember there was a man who worked with my father with General Electric, and he was in Holland during World War II, and his growth was stunted because there was not enough to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry did not have the opportunity to grow to his full height due to malnutrition. And the German soldiers were quartered in his home. And, he had a great intellect and humor and all that kind of stuff. But, he came to America and it made him. And the Dutch, they really went through an awful lot during the war.
Yeah.
They really did. Wasn't that where The Hiding Place came from?
Yeah. What, the book, The Hiding Place?
Yes.
Yeah.
With Corrie ten Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
She was Dutch.
Yep.
She came from Holland.
Yeah.
And they were hiding Jews in their home and everything.
Yep.
And she was the only one to survive from her family.
Yeah. I mean, that takes great courage and great nobility, and there seems to be a real lacking of that right now.
Well, she had quite a legacy. She was a tramp for the Lord, and her life and her books were just amazing. But The Hiding Place was made into a movie. It was quite good. I think a lot of people today have pretty much forgotten about her, but she's worth revisiting.
Yep, exactly. Like Marcel Marceau. It's really interesting about him. So he was Jewish and he was in France, but he was his family was on the border with Switzerland and Germany, up there where it's all kind of blurry. Italy's over there. And so the Germans didn't conquer any of those countries all at once, meaning they went to the capital, they crushed the government, and then they went out and solidified their control over the land. And so Marcel Marceau, who was Jewish at the time, basically, as a teenager, he joined the French resistance. And what he did was, because he was really into theater and all of that, and he was getting into mime, and he was kind of well known as an entertainer, and the Germans thought he was, French, not Jewish, and they thought he was funny, but outside it, he could pretend, his miminess to be German, and he would dress all these Jewish kids up as German scouts and take them for hikes up in the Alps. And, and they were all traumatized because their families had been taken away in boxcars, and the kids had been, pushed off to the side. And he, that was his thing in the French underground. And he saved thousands of kids. And no one, they don't even know. And he wrote a number of great books about all of that, and no one even knows he did that, if they even know his name.
Well, those people who were truly heroic, the men and women from that era,
Yeah.
they're largely forgotten.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they are. And it's really sad. Noor Khan, are you familiar with her? She was basically a Persian princess.
I heard the name. Tell the story.
She did a number of children's stories.
Uh-huh.
And like fairy tales and things like that. And she was recruited by the British, and her family fled France. And she spoke French, and she was trained and to be a wireless operator. And she was betrayed by a French woman and was captured by the Germans. And they beat her and tried to make her talk, and she would not talk. She could not be broken. And they beat her and killed her. They shot her in the head in Dachau and burned her body. And I placed a memorial stone for her. I think it's a World War II museum. And here she is, this terrible German guy just getting the crap out of her. And she's on her knees. And before he shot her, she said one word: liberty.
Yep.
That's feminine courage right there.
Yep.
Noor Khan. And the family, I think her father was a mystic. And I think from like Persia.
Right.
And she was really something, and a very sensitive, very intelligent young woman. And she was recruited, and at first they thought, she doesn't have the temperament to do this. But when the trials came, she stood her ground.
It's interesting.
The Gestapo, they were vicious with interrogations, as you know.
Because they recruited psychotics, But what's interesting is from 1888 until 48, humanity was going through a change. I mean, people like Edgar Cayce were just tons of people who were seeing the changes that the earth was going to go through, that we are going through right now, that no one's noticing. And they're, global warming. Oh, it's because of your car. No, stupid. The planet is changing. And they don't want to tell the public that, because it would freak them out. Oh, if we just try electric cars, it'll be okay, right? That's what we're told. But no, sorry, kids, the world is changing. Unless you change with the world, you're not going to be here. And that's what the
environmental footprint, like the children who are exploited to dig these elements out of the earth with their bare hands in Africa.
Right.
And, it's just like, okay, you say there's an economic benefit to this. Well, you have children who are being exploited. Yeah. There's a lot of pollution. You have to use a coal-fired plant to power your electric car.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense. And let's face it, with Tesla, I mean, he had free energy.
Yes, in the 1890s.
Yeah, free energy.
Yes. No, it's and Morgan said, "Oh, I can't make money at free energy." No, sorry, buddy. Right.
Well, unless you put a meter on the sun, you're not going to get it.
Right. So it's silicon is another. I mean, all of this stuff is just another hooskow, just another distraction, and the bottom line is the spiritual revolution has to come. God has to. A friend of mine at church, he's the Bob Hope of the neighborhood. And so he's, one of the, what do you call those guys? The deacons. But all the other deacons, they're like, I have authority. And he just comes in and kind of, so there was a church and so he said, and he starts off, he kind of jumps on the stage and says, hey, welcome everyone, blah, blah, blah. And then he says his little thing and hands it off to the lady who gives the announcements, who then hands it off to the music guy. And we have the worst chorus. I mean, just, oh, God. And it's so Baptist, the Baptists can't have anything that's flashy. So it's like, really, forget about it.
Hey, we've got a lot of Baptists and ABC stores and dance halls. I mean, come on.
Okay.
And let's face it. It says make a joyful noise. Doesn't mean you got to sing.
Okay. So anyway, you're right. I'm sorry.
That's all you got to do.
See, that's my prejudice from being Catholic, because boy, the organs would just rumble your guts. But anyway, so he gets up there and he says, "Hey, how you doing?" And so I was thinking today, I see all these new families here because they've made they're going to be a mega church. They've like enlarged the church by half. And he goes, I see all these new people and all these cute little faces and all you new mommies and daddies with all your babies. And first you're really scared about the welfare of your child. And then you realize that the kid is like a rubber ball. He's like indestructible. And then they start walking and you're like, oh, that's such a great thing. And then they start talking. Oh, that's such a great thing. But what is truly the most important thing of the relationship of a parent with a child? And that is to see your child have God come into their heart. And he was right. And the way he said it, it just struck everyone like, whoa, right? Not like, be saved, get on you, roll around and speak in tongues. No, he was like talking about that experience. I remember when I was a little boy of 7, and I wasn't, we were really poor, and my daddy had to work really hard, never saw him. We didn't even have an outhouse. We just crapped behind a tree. And he's going on by this, but he said, I was out in the forest, I was walking home, and I fell off a cliff, and I floated down, and an angel put me on the ground and said, you're okay. And he said, that's when God came into my heart. Now, whether the angel picked him up or whatever it was, but that's what he remembers. And so that's what the truth. But anyway, he said it so vividly and so earnestly that everyone experienced it. So all the rest of the people who were going to like give the sermon and all the lesson and all that, they couldn't match it. They just got up and said, yeah, JR, that's why we got him,
Well, I've sat through a lot of very boring sermons and
right.
messages, and if you speak from the heart, you're much better off.
Yep. I mean, you were a minister. You were giving those sermons, right?
I think my best messages were just comments I wrote in the back of an envelope for my train of thought.
Yeah.
And I'd run with that, and you basically just, it's coming from the other side. You open your mouth, the words are there, but when you engage your audience, you have to run with it.
Right.
If you're in tune with the people, they will respond to you.
Yeah. It's like
and
a
if
tuning
you're not,
fork.
forget it.
Yep. Well, they go to sleep. They're in church, and that's when they start thinking of sinful stuff. That's when the devil, it's like shooting chickens in a barrel. You got them all wrapped up in the church, and they're bored out of their minds, and they're looking at the lady next to them. And I mean, at least the Muslims are smart enough to have girls on one side, boys on the other.
No, the women and children are all the way in the back.
Yeah.
The men are up front with them, women and children back row.
Right.
It's a man's world. No, they're all the way in the back. When I went to ODU, there was a Muslim conference, and there were all kinds of things going on. We had the ambassador show up from Jamaica, and I listened to him, and this Muslim conference. I said, okay, I'll go. And I was one of the few non-Muslims who was there.
Right.
And all the men up front, all the women and the children, all the way in the back. Yeah. Anyway, I think this was before the Iranian sacked the embassy.
Right.
With Jimmy Carter. But anyway, the premise of this conference: can Islam solve the problems of the United States? I want to hear this one.
Yeah.
And of course, at the end, it was a resounding yes. And I'm like, okay, I've been to one of the most broken countries on the face of the earth, Afghanistan.
Right.
And we were living in the 7th century.
But you got to realize that, that's the whole thing. Islam is not, just like Christianity or just like any religion, isn't representative of the puddinheads that do it the worst, the Taliban, or any, and like the guys in Iran, those guys, people don't realize Iran's being run by Mossad and MI6 and the CIA.
Well, I had one friend
Keep these wars going.
who was from Iran, and
Right.
she goes, my country's run by crazy people.
Yes,
I went to high
because
school
the
with
Iranians are
a
probably
guy
some of
named
the most
Reza.
fun
His father
people.
was in the Shah's army. He was a
Right.
general,
Right,
and this is before the Shah was toppled.
Right.
And then here was a very prosperous and highly educated populace,
Yep.
which was rolled back to the 7th century.
and that's why half of the doctors in America are Iranian. They came here. I had a
And they're
girlfriend.
interesting people. They really
Yes,
are.
they really are, because they're Persian, not really.
Well, they're not Arabs.
They're not
Persians.
Arabs.
That's
no,
correct.
Right. And so I had a girlfriend in Miami who was just the most gorgeous thing you ever could see, brilliant. And she had dark, she looked Middle Eastern, and her name was O'Brien, Kathleen O'Brien, right? I go, how'd you get that name? She goes, well, my father was a colonel in the Iranian Air Force, and my father now, my stepfather, not my stepfather, my adopted father, was his best friend. He taught him how to fly an F-4, and when the thing in Iran broke loose, the Air Force got out, and the Iranian guy gave this girl as a baby to her father, who wasn't even married at the time, and said, I want you to be her father. I want you to take her to America, be her father, marry, you have a girlfriend, marry her and adopt her. Here's the adoption papers. Get on the airplane, get out. And that was her. So she's gorgeous, and she was a great reporter and newspaper and TV reporter. And we were quite the thing, because her editor just stuck a camera in her hand and said, go, just back in the days when Canon had that first real great digital camera that did videos and stills. And so she was supposed to interview this person, like to get rid of her and make her, and she had all these books all over this table where I had breakfast. And I said, so what are you doing? And she goes, oh, I have to interview this person, and I have, I got everything I could find about what they do, what they are, da da da. I said, boy, and she was like reading it like she was brilliant. And she goes, and I have to go like in 2 hours and interview her, and I don't even know how to use this camera. I said, I'll be your cameraman. Let's go. So, and this woman was super duper rich, one of the people from where the rich people, the Kennedys and the Bushes are in Palm Springs. And so we go, this lady has a farm and all these animals. And I go there, and here's this gorgeous woman. She's probably 25, and I'm like, 63. I'm really broken, like really heavy, and I'm just like waddling in there. Do you ever see the Black Batman where they had the penguin? I look like that. The penguin as a homeless guy. Anyway, we go there, and I read her palm, and I talk to her about her twin brother who was lost in the war, and just go on, and she's like, oh, just totally. So we spend the whole day with her. We go to her big fancy house and have her servants serve us food, and then the woman I'm with, the young girl, she basically emotes with all the servants, and we're all there now having lunch together, and we make that as the story of this woman. And we go back, and there's the guy at the station's a great editor, and he puts it together, and it's like a 5-minute little thing for the news the next night, and it got more positive everything than that station ever had. And so she became number one. And that's why she became my girlfriend, because she just said I was her rabbit's foot, right? So she was definitely, Iranian, Persian, Muslim too. So she studied she's Christian, her father's Catholic, so she's Catholic, but she studied Islam and Judaism when she was in school. And that's what she said. All these religions are the same. They all have the same God. The best parts of them are all the same. The rest is just politics. And I couldn't have put it better. So.
Well, Sharia law.
Well, that's a whole different thing. That's not really.
Well, the Islam is Islam. Sharia law, that's
right.
part of it.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't take that out of it. I mean, that's baked in the cake, man.
But what you can do, just like, I mean, you know, the Roman Catholic Church was way worse than Sharia law.
Child brides, public executions.
Yes.
I mean, they torture people, they kill people. I got that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But I mean, it's
and also
really,
economics, keeping
really cruel.
you know, a third of the world's population under slavery for 900 years. You know, that's you know. So, like what she said, all of these religions, the God is only one God. It's the God of love. And all these religions, the best parts of them are talking about that. The rest is bullshit. It's greedy.
God is love,
right.
And you know it's there's so much to this,
right.
You know, but the violence and just the hatred,
right.
And just
everything
my soldiers went through, it was pretty bad.
But you know that two things about Afghanistan. It was the place where empires always went to die. And the other thing, that it was the place of a dark. See, people don't understand. There is a power on this earth. You know, you want to call it Satan. You know, what Earth is about is this war between light and dark, right?
I got it, but you know, it was a Buddhist country,
right? People don't understand. Same with Syria.
Islam went in there with the sword,
right,
and rooted these people out.
Yep.
And the Buddhas were blown up.
Yep.
And they were these huge stone statues,
yes,
carved into a mountain.
Yep.
And they're gone.
They're
and,
gone.
You know, the country, they're broke, and you know, they can't show people the Buddhas anymore, but they can show them where they were.
Yeah, and the same thing with Syria. Syria was
okay,
yeah.
And Jonah's tomb was blown up,
right.
And you know, anything that kind of got in the way of the narrative was just
taken
away.
Same with
just blown up, taken away.
Yeah, every religion.
We can't have this because it doesn't go.
It doesn't fit with our worldview. That's what it is. So that's what it is. And like I said, there is, I call it the hidden hand, but that's the thing that darkens everything. And the interesting thing is, you look at the yin yang symbol, right? Circle, that's the circle of life. And then there's the squirrely little S that cuts it in half. And that's the path we're on. One side is dark with a white dot in it. And one side's white with a black dot in it. And it's basically saying, listen, nothing's good or bad. It's how you can bring love into your heart to mediate all of these things. You're going to have to mediate all of this stuff. You can't get rid of it. You can't say this. We have to have a war to, in my church, my Christian churches I go to, it really annoys me how they're going on about having to have a war to, destroy the evildoers,
Well, I mean, Jesus was not into war.
No.
I mean, that was not his thing.
Not his thing, no.
And when you mention like the yin yang, I mean, the flag from South Korea is so beautiful.
Yes, it's that.
And it is so deep. And, I would ask the Koreans, tell me about your flag. It's just so deep and powerful. It's hard to describe.
And again, that dark side, that hidden hand, if the Koreans are just such great people, even the Northern Koreans, because they are all Koreans. They didn't separate themselves. European military entities did it. And what's interesting, the North was the rich guys.
At one time they were.
Yeah, they were the educated rich guys, had the industry.
At one time, that was the beacon of Christianity for the country.
Exactly. That's of course they had to bring in, heartless communism, blah, 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 And the thing that I try to tell people today, when, Donald Trump, what he's doing, he was just placed there to break things. It is so obvious because he's just like slashing and smashing. And a lot of things need to be broken. I'm all for it, right? But Nothing's being put in its place, so there's going to be a vacuum. When you have a vacuum, and he's pushed all these things through the Supreme Court, so the next person could be, this clown who's going to be mayor of New York. I mean, that guy, it's so obvious he's a plant, because what did he, what his job was before he's running for New York mayor? He was a DJ at a club.
Well, AOC was a bartender.
I know, that's what I'm saying. They just pick these people out of there and give them a little training, and if they got sharp enough weasel personality, they can go up and do it.
Yeah, Sandy. Yeah, Sandy was her name then. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
No talent, no ability to speak of.
No,
I mean,
but she had that weasel take advantage, go straight to the jugular kind of thing. And all these people read a script. It's mind-boggling that no one can tell that. It's like, so it's whatever goes down is going to go down. It's God's will. And, it really is. I used to go, oh, what are you talking about God's will? What kind of, no, all of this stuff is going down because we have to learn how to actually love first ourselves. Then we have to be in co-creation with that love with God, and then spread that like peanut butter on the rest of humanity.
Well, that's a good call.
Yep. That's the only way this is going to work. And it's not going to blow up and end. And it really annoys me when people read the Bible and quote it and they don't even know it. Because what's the end thing when, everything goes away and people in the lake of fire? What do they call that? At the end of the King James,
the apocalypse.
The apocalypse. But what's the section of that Bible? And what's it called?
The Apocrypha.
Yeah,
you're talking about Revelation.
Revelations. That's what. Yes, right. Yeah. And they have Jesus coming in, riding on a white horse with a big sword and killing everyone. No, kids, that's not Jesus. He's the King of forgiveness.
Well, there are destroying angels. There are angels that are messengers,
yes,
those that are involved in worship, this, that. There are destroying angels, that can just, wipe out entire armies.
Yep.
I mean, they're highly structured. They're very, very intelligent. But, judgment has been delayed.
Right. And
we're dealing with, there's a lot of negativity, and evil is evil. I mean, it's there. You talked about the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
But Lucifer is still God's devil.
But you just said it. He's God's devil, meaning God made him because God knew that humanity needed to be tested, and so he is. He's like there's the guys who test your washing machine. He's like testing. He's giving us the opportunity. To be our worst. We don't have to be. We don't have to be tempted. I'm tempted all the time. And especially, man, when I was living the corporate life for that 12 years before I died in 2014, or maybe, I started in 03. So whatever, 03 to 2014, 10 years. That's where I gained, almost 200 pounds. And man, and I kept talking to God. I said, so is this sin? He goes, no. Sin is when what you're doing is your God. You're just enjoying that slice of cake. You're still talking to me. You're still having this relationship, and you need to learn this stuff. You need to really learn what this is. So I sent you into the lion's den to go to it. You totally freak these people out all the time. So no, you're doing what I sent you to do. You have no idea what you're doing, but that's the good thing about you. You really don't think you know what you're doing, and you're doing exactly what I want you to. And don't, like I said, once you start thinking, I need that drink, I need that titty bar, I need that chocolate cake, and I'll do anything for it. Because I've seen you quit people, jobs, employers who wanted you to go across that line, and you would say, sorry, Charlie, not going to do that. So that's why. So when the churchy people, when I tell them my stories about that time, the ladies, oh, you're such a sinful guy. I said, no. Sin, and if you read the Bible, you can see what God, especially before Exodus, where God's always talking about it, before he's talking about Israel, how the Hebrews, they're like, his bitchy girlfriend who steals his cigarettes and his loose change. And then once they become Israelites, you've been freed, like born again, and they still are acting worse. It's like, that's when he really got upset. And all those wars that occurred before Israel, found it didn't even find its way. It would get close, and then they would turn in the wrong direction, take, the temptation and try to control, try to be the king, try to rule. Look at David. It's a great example. Now, there was a guy when he's a little kid and he gets put up against the invaders, giant with all the armor on, and he goes out there he is living God's faith in humanity. David goes out there going, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got this little slingshot here and this rock, and I'll pick up a few rocks. And, but he has, he is working under the auspices of God. And that's why
slingers back in the ancient days were essentially snipers.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, they were highly accurate, very, very deadly.
But still, he's going up.
When he came out there with a sling, that was like a Patriot missile.
Right. But still, he went up against the giant that had armor and the best warrior.
Which didn't do him any good.
No, because, he could have been all the greatest slinger there was, but it was God's will that was going to happen.
What was the mistake that David made that day?
That he believed in all people patting him on the back and saying what a great guy he was. He didn't take it it took him numbers of years to get to that place where he was a sinner. When he had sex with his, sent his general into warfare, and then he went and had sex with his wife.
Well, you're talking about Uriah, but he only needed one stone.
Right. Yeah, he had 3.
It was a one-shot deal.
Yeah, it's a one-shot deal. Yes, he picked up 3.
And he picked up more than one stone. Right. He only needed one.
Yep.
And it was, smoothed out from the water flows and all that, but he only needed one.
Yep.
And, Goliath was killed with his own sword.
Yeah.
All that happened is the shot to the forehead stunned him where he collapsed.
Right, and he fell on the sword.
No. He took out his sword and he cut off his head with his own sword.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because he was stunned?
Goliath was still alive. He used his sword against him to cut his head off.
David cut his head off, or Goliath?
Yes.
Yes, right. Okay, good.
With Goliath's own sword. His own weapon was used against him.
Right, because he was stunned. Right, I got it. Okay.
Well, I mean, he was essentially unconscious.
Right.
And then he was dead.
Right.
Right. And I think he kept his armor as a war trophy.
Or the king did, because the king kept trying to tell David, the king thought it was all over, right? And so he said, there's some armor over there. Why don't you put that on? And David said, no, I don't need it.
Well, but Goliath's armor was the war trophy.
Yes. And so I'm not as, you are the minister. I'm just a minister of fun, but
it's a great story and everything.
It is, but that's one of the things.
It was the most unlikely tool.
Right.
No one had the courage.
Yes.
But I mean, here's David as a shepherd killing lions with a sling. He already knew how to do it. But
the interesting thing is how the shepherd motif just keeps coming up and up and up. And so everyone, like Moses, he was a shepherd when the burning bush came to him. All the top 10 heroes of the Torah are basically shepherds. And then you break into the New Testament with Jesus, and he's a shepherd.
Yeah, well, if you're going to go to the lowest, humblest form of work,
right?
Being a shepherd's it.
Yeah.
I once saw a real shepherd at work in Germany with his dog, and it was so interesting because they were totally in tune.
With
their flock.
Yep.
And that man was watching every movement. His dog was totally alert.
What kind of dog?
It wasn't a shepherd. It had long fur.
Huh.
I'm not certain what the breed was, but I mean, dogs are extremely smart.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You talk about AI for canines.
Right. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yep. Yep. The whatchamacallit, when I was in Australia, I saw a lot of shepherds with sheep and flock. They're really the wool thing. Ireland too, and both those guys, Ireland and Australia, had there's the Australian sheepdog or herding dog or whatever they call them. That's kind of people like them because they're really smart, very loyal, and do what you say. It'll still look at you, boy, you're stupid, but it'll still do what you tell them to do. And that's the really interesting is when you see the relationship of the dog, the shepherd, and the sheep. They're all together. It's a trinity. Without the sheep, the two, the guy and the dog, I got nothing to do. And the sheep do what the shepherd and dog tell them to do because they know that if they go off on their own, they're going to be toast.
Well, I actually saw shepherds moving their flocks in Afghanistan. And there'd be a guy in the back throwing rocks to keep them moving.
Right.
And we got hit after one flock had been moved through. All the cars dried up, everything else. And then the sky opened up and it rained steel for hours.
Yeah.
They hit us so hard that they shot until they had no ammo left.
Yeah.
This went for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
There was nothing left to shoot.
And so they just left. and you guys had
time to go. We couldn't even shoot back.
Yeah, right.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that is the whole thing of when an imperial army goes up against a neighborhood bunch of thugs. The imperial army cannot win.
Well, when you're looking at the ruins, actually still standing, the towers from Alexander, we actually saw the fortifications.
Yep.
They're right there. It's just like things haven't changed much. And it was just a very God-forsaken place. I mean, you're flying over this landmass, and it looks like Mars from altitude. I mean, there's just nothing there. Anyway, thank you for the show. It sounds very interesting. And
well, we did a great show for about 40 minutes, and it was interesting. The last, I don't know, half hour, everyone left. No one wanted to hear us talk about what we were talking about.
That's okay.
That's fine. I mean, half of my shows are that way, but it's an interesting motif that because I tell stories and chucklehead stuff and people love that. Well, kind of when we're talking about stuff that's historically referenced, stuff that has something to do with your life right here today, I don't want to hear that.
That's fine. Yes. That's fine.
So how's the gang?
Everyone's okay.
When they're going back to school?
I think this school goes back, I think the 19th of August.
And how about you?
That's when I go back, the 19th of August. Okay. I got my last semester.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'll be taking other classes in the future, but this is the last.
Right.
Under the GI Bill.
Right.
This is it. So,
well, you'll have
48 months and 62 classes.
Right. So you can 8 months do all your classes like you do. You do a great job. But your next step is to take all of this stuff that you've researched and written about and got a nice grade and start putting it into things that could be acceptable. Because, man, there's going to be a lot of textbooks that are going to get thrown out in the next few years. And you could write some really good ones that might be acceptable to the new regime and still teach people things they need to know. And I worked on textbooks, and I used to get paid pretty good for that. And I was just, selling them pictures to put in the textbooks. I wasn't even writing stuff. But I learned about textbooks in that little regime of my life. So you have a great opportunity. There's a expanse opening up to you that that is amazing. Not be, it already is amazing. Do you feel it? Do you feel the, because me being out here all by myself in the deep green, I really feel the energetics of the planet changing.
Oh, you're in tune with it. Well, the peaks of otter, I was in tune with that flow too.
Right. So it's, I mean, you are, we're both lucky guys, so we both have that that tuning fork that's in us, right? So now you're kind of in the land of distraction. You live in a tourist area, and you got all the stuff like hustle bustle around you. Me, I got nothing except,
well, I had 12 years of nothing on the peaks of otter.
Yeah.
And living in an old cabin, 125 acres of land. And,
right.
Everyone had been, the families had been there forever.
Yep.
And it took me 8 or 9 years to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was.
Yep.
But it was an interesting experience. And then going from that to the military, and it's like going all over the world.
Yep.
The Army was easy after being on the mountain for 12 years.
Right. Survivalist, yes, exactly.
Well, it's like, okay, we'll actually pay you. So I got a raise.
Yep.
Here, I wasn't making anything basically. So it's like, okay, this is where you're going to be. This is what you're going to do. Everything was set up for me.
Yep.
And when I did the mountain, the church had been abandoned for years. There was no congregation, no power, no money, no nothing. And had to bring everything back with nothing.
Yep. But you did.
Well, I guess. And I remember like the last treasurer, they just turned all the money over to a local association. And of course, when the church came back, they weren't going to give it a dime, let alone a penny.
Right.
Well, thanks for the donation. Okay, well, we could probably use a few bucks to nail this building together.
Yeah.
They look at you, it's like, oh, no, it's, that's for us.
Yeah.
And I remember this one director, he looked at me, are you still here? It's like, oh, you got all these needy people and stuff, and no one's here because no one wants to work for free and help all these poor people. And I did that for 12 years.
Yep.
I couldn't leave because there was no one else to help.
Yep, exactly.
And once everything was set up, it was time to go.
Yeah, exactly. So, Yep.
But bringing a building back with, holes to the ceiling and roof and, took 3 days to clear a lot just to get to the building.
Yeah.
But it was paid for.
Yes, right.
There was no mortgage. I just had to bring it back from the dead. Yep. So that was my first church was resurrected. It was abandoned for 20-some years from 1880.
So now there's a book. Now there's a book you should write. I think that should be your first once you get your finished this semester. You should work on. I mean, there are other things that are going to come up before it to get published, but this should be your first real book. You know what I'm saying? Because all of the stories you tell me are so vivid still in your mind.
Well, it's like the B-25.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's like there was no monument, even the museum. There was nothing there, and I sent them a piece of paper with the men's names on it, and It was lost. And then I did it again, and they put a little plastic frame on the wall next to part of the flap that was cut off one of the wings, and picked up pennies and got in touch with the rangers, and we want to put a monument on federal lands. It's like, yeah, right. Just try to do something like that.
Yeah.
It just, you will never get this through. And so, no, these men died here, and we need to put something in the debris field because it's an aerial grave. And we were able to get permission to put the monument there. And all the people who were heavily involved with this, who did all the hard work, were veterans. They donated their labor and materials. They did it for free.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Right. Instead of the monument just a scant miles away, the Bedford Monument, which was a monetary debacle. People took money out of that whole. I mean, that was just a grift, basically.
Well, you're talking about the National D-Day Memorial.
Yeah, that was a grift.
there was a lot. General Rawson,
Mm-hmm.
that is really his memorial. And I knew General Rawson.
Right, he was a good guy.
Yes, he was a very fine gentleman. And his wife passed away about 1.5 years ago. And we were very good friends.
Yep.
And I just loved Mrs. Rawson.
The rest of those people on that board were
and,
just...
And the general, didn't marry her until he was 70 years old. And that was the love of her life.
Yep.
And he wouldn't talk about anything.
Right.
And after I left and was at DLI for a year, he died. It was 2004. He was born in 1918.
Right.
Of a heart attack at home during a Redskin game, of all things. And she asked me, could you find information on my husband? And I found a pageant magazine on eBay from 1962 that talked about Bill Rawson setting up, get this, the Green Beret program.
Yeah, right. I know that.
That was General Rawson who did that.
Yep.
Okay. He was the youngest general in the Army during Vietnam.
Yep.
He was the youngest lieutenant colonel in the Army in World War II.
Yep.
He got the Distinguished Service Cross at Anzio. And one of my seminary professors named Dr. Chevis Horn was a World War II Army chaplain. And he mentioned a few things. He mentioned Anzio. He didn't mention the unit, anything else. So I was like, okay, he was at Harvard with the chaplain school for a month. At 2 weeks, they pulled him out of school before graduation. Sent him to North Africa. When we look around here, he was in the 3rd Infantry Division, the 30th Infantry Regiment. And who was also in the 30th Infantry Regiment? General Rawson.
Yeah.
So Chaplain Horn was his chaplain. These men knew each other. I didn't find that out till after both these men were gone.
It would have been interesting to put them both together.
Oh, yeah. Well, I met one in seminary and I met one after seminary. And General Rawson was one of my friends. I used to have lunch with him. And Mrs. Rawson, when I would visit their home, she was Greek. She made the best soup. Oh, my gosh. Her soup was the best. And she always packed me soup or whatever she had. And, she just made sure I was taken care of. And I just thoroughly enjoyed her company. And after her husband died, there was a D-Day dinner. And I was her date. I drove her to the dinner.
Uh-huh.
And we had so much fun. Oh, we had a ball. So when I took her home, I was driving her Cadillac. General Rawson told me that the 3rd Infantry Division determined that they would be first to Birch's Garden, to the Eagle's Nest. Everyone thinks it was the 101st Airborne.
Right.
No, I was with the 101st. No, they weren't there. It was the 3rd ID that got there first. All right. Well, General Rawson went into a villa, and there was a German general who had dispatched himself.
Uh-huh.
And he took his sidearm that he had completed this Harry Carry with.
Uh-huh.
I think it was a PO8 Parabellum pistol.
Mm-hmm.
That was stolen from his apartment when he worked in the Pentagon. On the foyer in the hallway leading into their home, Mrs. Rawson, she went there and she picked up this sterling silver goblet and she placed it in my hand, and I looked at it, had a crest on it. Guess whose crest it was?
Who?
Goring's.
Really?
Goring from Goring's villa.
Yeah.
The General Rawson had picked that up. And there it was years later in his home as a war trophy.
Yeah.
And he didn't speak about anything. I picked up that article and I gave it to Mrs. Rawson. She was amazed. And then I went after photographs from the Associated Press.
Mm-hmm.
He served 4 tours of duty in Vietnam. He was Westmoreland's deputy chief commander. He was out there with his troops.
Yep.
I actually got in touch. There was a man who wrote a book, The General's Driver, who was from Oregon. The general was from Oregon. He wanted a driver from Oregon. A guy named David was his driver. He saved his life. This is a great story in itself. The general had a Saberliner. It was a jet by Lockheed. It was a private jet. And his pilot who was assigned to him was a major. And David was and they flew into an air base. And, David's inquiring and is coming back. We're about ready to get overrun.
Right.
You can't defend an air base. It's just too big.
Yeah, right.
You just fall back and back and back, and then you hold out as long as you can. And he had to walk into a meeting with the general. You don't do this. He walked right in this meeting, and he told his boss, "Sir, we have to leave now." Okay? General Rawson got up. They could not even close the door to the jet when they took off. There was not enough time.
Right.
They were under fire. David saved his life. And David had a tough life. I mean, but I had the chance to meet with him on the phone. And he actually spoke to Mrs. Rawson before she died.
Oh.
And she was so thrilled to talk to someone who knew her husband.
Right.
Because he didn't talk about any of this stuff. But I found all these photographs, all this stuff, and I sent everything to her. And the family, everyone was going through this stuff. It's like, my God, we had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, Vietnam was General Rawson's war.
Yeah.
He wrote the definitive history on Vietnam. It's at Carlisle Barracks. He received a master's degree, I think, at Oxford. And he wrote the definitive story on the Vietnam experience.
Did you read that?
I have not read it yet, and I'll tell you why. He brought to the publisher and, oh man, this is just great. Now, all you got to do is edit it down.
Right.
And General Rawson goes,
no,
forget it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. It was never published.
Mm.
The Carlisle Barracks has it. I don't know if it's been digitalized yet or what, but eventually I will read it. And I used to visit the general, and he was an Eagle Scout, and he had a sense of humor. I mean, he was very smart and very funny. But this is one of the best stories ever about Bill Rawson.
Mm.
Everybody wanted him to be on their staff because he was so good.
Right.
And here he was, a lieutenant colonel, and he was working for SHAPE, Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. And in walks Montgomery. Oh, I have 38 ribbons. How many ribbons do you have? And then Lieutenant Colonel Rawson, having no idea how many ribbons he had, yelled out, 39! And Montgomery stormed out of the room. Everyone loved Rawson after that.
Right.
And General Rawson was a very special man. And he even turned down a Silver Star. And he wouldn't tell me about his DSC. I read it and I brushed away the tears. Said, God bless you, sir. He should have gotten the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, right. Well, there are a lot of people who should have gotten the Medal of Honor, right? And
if he was killed, he would have been the Medal of Honor.
Exactly. That's basically
but he was amazing. And as his wife said, he was a tough old bird.
Yep.
Now, he was at Dachau when it was liberated.
Uh-huh.
He had nightmares from that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
Oh, yeah. It was. But it was, again, it was just like what's going on in the world today. All of this was allowed to go on. Not, the Germans, yes, they were the psychos who did it, but they were manipulated into doing that.
Well, the most dangerous thing was putting a uniform on someone. The Germans like being soldiers.
Yes.
Okay. And they're damn good soldiers.
Yeah, they are.
There's no doubt about it. But there was a psychosis that came down upon these people with authority.
Yep.
And, the German, like the definitive history of World War II with the Nazis, the rise and fall of Nazi Germany.
Right.
Germans, the most impressive people you could ever meet until you put them all together as a people and have a war, then you get some real problems.
Right. And the other problem about them is that because of they have this strong belief in mythology, right? And so you can really do a backdoor mind control on these folks. And that's what all of you see the films of Lichtenstall of the neuron rallies.
from Nuremberg.
Yeah, they were just, mind controlled, and they just shuffled, for 3 years, the whole population of Germany into that gigantic space, and just put them under that, because they would do all kinds of, like, make them, okay, the Fuhrer's coming at 11:30 in the morning, get here early. They get there at 6, no food, no water. The big speakers they had would have this, like, very, very, very low frequency hum that you couldn't hear, but it was, doing things to their organs. And they would just keep tightening the screw. All, the sun would come up and they'd be burnt alive. And then he would always come out. You see these images of these 2 concrete pillars with swastika flag, big, tall, 10-story flag on these gigantic concrete pillars. And he would come out with the sun shining right behind him, and the shadow of him would be right across the 100,000 people. It was like God showing up.
Everything was staged.
Yep.
It was a Jewish man who taught Hitler how to project his voice and gesture as a public speaker.
Yep.
And he was eventually killed.
Yep.
And what was one feature of every German home during the rise of Nazi Germany?
A radio to hear.
The radio. Everybody had a radio.
Yep.
And they all heard the speeches, which were magnificent propaganda.
But if you listen to them translated, it was just like Donald Trump's gibberish.
Well, there was a little bit probably more to this with Hitler and everything. I mean, there was the demonic.
No, that's very true.
Really, it was demonic.
So it was, alchemy that was going on there, right? It was magic.
And also, with the SS and everything else, the runes.
Like I said,
they were heavily into the occult.
Yes, they were definitely, and that's why they could do other why they perfected, gravitational propulsion, and their technology was so far ahead of us because they didn't. And one of the problems that we are having with technology is that we are being manipulated by what's truth, what's scientific, blah, blah, blah. The Germans said, oh, all that other stuff over there, that's Jewish science. We're not going to we're going to do our own thing. And they did. And they did things that other people would have never tried. And that's why, and they were really amazing technical, like you look at the V2 and you take it apart and you see how it was like, whoa, where did they get this? I mean, just the way the pumps worked and everything worked on the V2 was like at least 30 years ahead of whatever, what's his name, Goddard did. He had liquid propelled, but nothing like what that was. It's a little thing on a stick Goddard had. Yes, he was the first guy to do that, and that was a great idea, but boy, the V2 was unfriggin' believable, and exactly right. Everything they did had this demonic characteristic, and they were pushing holes through the dimensional walls between us and the demons over there, because the demons are right there. You know why horses have blinkers? They put the thing on their side when they're doing a carriage, because their eyes are so big that, our, peripheral vision is like, just right there. Theirs is like 100 times, like almost behind their head, to a point that the horses can actually see that little hole in the dimension. So they see stuff and they don't even know what it is. And that's why they have blinkers put on them. Horses are, did you ever spend any time with horses?
My son's been riding.
So it's, I had 3 different times in my life. I was spent a lot of time, intense time with horses. So, yeah. So anyway, well, that was a good conversation, hour and 30 something minutes, and it'll be up there tomorrow after my laptop is dead and my devices. Have you noticed? I talk to or communicate with lots of different people on lots of different places and levels of whatever they're doing. Anyway, everyone's complaining about how their digital equipment is kind of fucking up. Their cell phones, their laptops, their tablets, their mainframes, whatever. It's like I have a sense that that's going to be one of the little whoopee things that is going to happen before Christmas. That the computers will just stop working. And then Elon Musk, because he has scraped all that data from all those things. I mean, they've done so much damage to every governmental organ. They just took all the data away. And then they took the people who knew how to fix a machine away. So it's like, and I'm all for it. Our government is a sick kind of machine, but I think I would have done it a little different. Just.
Well, Occupy Mars, I mean, we're going what the biggest supercomputer in the world, I think, is in Memphis.
Yes, and he's poisoning all of the people in Memphis because they don't have enough electricity. So he put 40 super duper giant gas turbine generators that run on the crappiest oil, the cheapest shit that the things. So the particulate matter in Memphis is going up like 100%. So it's I mean, that shit is being done without any consciousness of what's appropriate, right or wrong, or fair or good. It's just let's go as fast. And I never liked the Silicon Valley kids who are all about move fast, break things. To get to where we want to go, we have to change everything around without any regard for anybody's welfare. So I went there a couple of times with Christine, and I said, I don't like this. I'm not going to be part of this. You shouldn't either.
No, it's a very bad vibe.
Yeah, you were in California.
I lived in Belmont for a year. That's Silicon Valley.
That's Silicon Valley.
You can see Oracle right out the apartment window as the planes are making their final approach to the airport there.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean, you got so you were there for a whole year. So you were experiencing the demonic thing. Because I remember when did I go to California the first time with Wavy? I guess it was 66, maybe. I think so. I was still in high school. And we went to there. In California, it was really a strange place because it was a gorgeous place before white people showed up. I mean, it was like heaven, right? And there were still lots of places all over California that was still like that. And Wavy, his parents had he was probably 12 years older than I was. But anyway, I was working to Fillmore. He knew everyone to Fillmore. And so my boss said, Wavy's going to take you to Fillmore West. We need you to do your thing over there. That building's about to catch fire and you need to rewire it. Okay. Said, there's nobody in California? No, we trust you. We don't think we can. We've had other people try. And so, okay. So it was a nice experience to leave New York City and go to LA and then San Francisco. And there were nice things about it, the mountains, the mix of all that stuff. And it was right at this place where it was a magically beautiful time. And Wavy his family had so much money. Down in the Haight, there was his place where everyone hung out. It was basically just a dump. And he got contractors go in there, bulldoze all the crap out, take it to, some other dump, and fix the sewer line and do all the stuff, and then turn it into an amazing park that he then built like little, he went to Switzerland and they had all these little places where people could hike and stay in the little thing if they got snowed in, right? And so he did that in the park. And that's when Ronald Reagan was governor, and he called it communism and had it bulldozed. And that's when I said, okay, this is a heralding of things to come. And so, we were there for another 2 months, and I saw lots of other stuff. And that's when I said, nobody here is real. There's nobody here that's real. So I went back to New York and did all the other stuff I did. And I had many other times. Oh man, you should go to California. You're so cool. You'd fit right in. I said, no, I don't. I don't fit in there. I tried because we were there 3 months. So, and we did a lot of really amazing stuff and met a lot. But everyone was so full of themselves,
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we were in Daly City, Foggy City.
Yep.
We were in Menlo Park.
Mm-hmm.
You move around a lot.
Right.
Then we were in Belmont for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to San Bruno. We were there for 2 years and 3 months. Then COVID hit. We left.
You were in California that long? You were there for that long? I didn't know you were that long. Yeah, that's almost 4 years, right?
Right. And I was stationed there for 2.5 years.
Woo.
So I'd been there, a long time. And my son was born in at Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a place to show up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm an East Coast kind of guy. Right.
Yep.
I'd much rather be on the East Coast.
Yeah, it never felt right. Like I was there three times, and not just for a weekend, but one time for 3 months, another time for 6 months, another time for 4 months. So long enough to get the whole thing in each of the different motifs, and what it really said, and I got the picture was California was the best we could be before we showed up. Once we showed up, it enabled us to be the worst we could be.
Well, it makes sense. It's all a matter of intent.
Right.
The landscape is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like up around like Tahoe looking at like Bonanza, like Nevada.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it is so gorgeous there.
Yeah.
And Northern California is the best part.
Yeah.
It really is, but it's been totally destroyed.
Yep. Yep.
And it's not practical to live there. It's just not a good place to be.
No. So that's so the 3 times I went, I'm not like, oh, I wish I never did that. No, it was great that I did it. I experienced it instead of being there for years and being destroyed. I had nice 3 months, 6 months, 4 months, and got everything you could get out of California, at least for me. And it was. So I'm here, and it's interesting to see what God has in store for me from this point on, because I'm going to see the. Some people have showed up. Let's see. What are they saying? This is time. Follow the owl. Yep. Let's see. The owl of all time has just realized. I wish I had my glasses so I could really. But anyway, so these 3 people have just been listening to our conversation and have been greatly thankful for what we've been talking about. Whereas somewhere in the middle, people left for about 30 minutes. And there was nobody there, but now there's a bunch of people back, and they seem to have liked the last 30 minutes that we've been talking. So, like I said, I have no idea but God always has something ready for me to do, so I'm open for whatever it is. And I'm just enjoying every day with whatever I'm doing. And I went to my favorite kind of Thai restaurant that's out in the middle of nowhere, but it's so good that people come, and they're just unbelievable. It's like a place that prints money, and they have this, on this thing that comes, a big table that you can sit outside. No one sits out there because the highway now is like, but it rained so hard, and it was amazing because it was like I was in a jet airplane. The wind was going not at me. If it was, I would have been drenched, but away from me over the building. And it was coming down off this roof and hitting the cars, and the rain was hitting it. And it was making swirls. What do they call it when the
vortexes?
In an aircraft wing, and it makes that swirl.
Vortex.
Yeah, vortex. And the sun was over there coming sideways. So there were rainbows everywhere. and people would come out and look at the rain and go, look, rainbows, rainbows. And they would just look around and go back in because it was raining too hard. So it was like very bizarre. So every day is like that for me. And tomorrow is another day of dealing with the medical bureaucracy. And
I wish you well with that.
Yeah.
This program's going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. I'm watching my son right now, but
Okay.
great visiting with you all.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we hit a lot of good spots, and I think one of the reasons why we had this conversation is that you're going to start writing about all the kind of stuff we just talked about.
It's all baked in the cake.
It's all baked in the cake. Yep. Okay, handsome. Talk to you later. Love you.
Okay. Much love.
Yep.
Thanks, Al. Bye-bye.
So, kids, did you like that? Was that fun? That was kind of fun. That guy is truly, he is an American hero. He is, and he's like survived. I mean, people have tried to kill him. He's just so honest. He's done so much. I mean, you think I've done a lot of stuff. This guy is, wow. And he's younger than I am, right? So so it's always where, so that's my friends. I have guys like him who are my friends, right? And there's true follow the owl. Let's see. Kathleen. Hey, thankful for the owl all-time purchase. Realized. Well, it's good to realize things. So, gang, remember, you can get a hold of me at thedudeawake42@gmail, right? Instead of, all I get on the Gmail these days is just stuff from a hospital and blah, 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 and, trying to sell me a catheter, blah, blah, blah. And everything is being run by AI now. I'm trying to get certain things, and everyone can get stuff about me, but I can't get any stuff about anybody because it's run by AI. And so and like I said, I really have a feeling that before September, might even be on 9/11, the world is going to lose electricity, pretty much. Right? Now, certain people will have electricity. If you're in an underground silo that's got a electromagnetic net around it, so it can't be interrupted. Yeah. If it's using dark magnet, yeah, probably, so some really whack thing is going to happen, and it's going to freak a lot of people out, but it's not going to be that bad overall. And so if you are there in God's spirit, it's not a problem, right? And that's what this show is about. Dreamy Dreamland is about your ability to go, when you dream, what you do, you close your eyes, you go to sleep, you go through different levels of REM and other delta and beta and theta mind waves, and you get to this place where you dream. And your eyelids, I used to work on a study that was studying dreams, right? And how they work and what it is and blah, blah, blah. And so, when people are in REM, rapid eye movement, right? That's when you're dreaming. And what it is, your eyelids are like movie screens. Your eyes are watching the movie, right? And that's why this show is called Dreamy Dreamland, because I tell these stories. I am your griot here telling you these stories, and they're like tuning forks, right? So in this show that we did today, man, we covered all over the place of information. If you go back and listen to this a few times with your eyes closed and let the dream motif play out in front of you, you will be amazed. So anyway, this little guy's it hates it when I let it just die. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to try and give it a show tomorrow. I'll try and get the other shows. I have to because I don't have my laptop, I'm doing it off this little tablet. So it takes longer to whatever it does to get on my channel. So, and then I have to go back and open it up to the public, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, I am bureaucratically and digitally challenged, so. Love you guys. Talk to you later.